Bryan Singer, you did it. So I'm going to admit right off the bat that I was really nervous for this film. All I could think about is how is this film going to condense a story into a 2-hour film. The film runs about 2 hours and 10 minutes. How are they going to tell such a complex, unique story in a 2-hour film? Well, Bryan Singer did it. For those of you who don't know, X-Men Days of Future Past is based on the Uncanny X-Men comic 141 through 142 published in 1981. This 2-part miniseries is based upon Sentials. For those of you who haven't actually read the comic storyline or know nothing of the X-Men Days of Future Past storyline, basically Sentials are created to destroy and bring extinction upon all mutants in the world. These mutants, these Sentials, these machines, these robots, have been placed with DNA of mutants that allow them to conform to whatever mutant power that person has, so therefore they're literally invulnerable to anything. So, if someone has the ability to do fire, they can transform, the Sentials can transform themselves to adjust for fire, so therefore nothing can do anything. Wolverine can't, bash them with his adamantium claws because it will adjust to the adamantium DNA of that specific mutant. It's a really unique story. It was a really unique comic series, 2-part series in the 1980s, and when I heard that they were going to announce it in the film, I was worried because I was like, how are they going to take this complex Days of Future Past and they're going to expand and make it into a film? Well, Bryan Singer did it so exceptionally well that by the end of the film, my jaw was literally like this. I was like, I can't believe it was this incredible. Like, I was actually, as the movie ended, I was trying to think of negative things to talk about, and because I always have something negative to say about most films in some way, even films that I enjoy, but I really can't pinpoint a lot of negativity because the only really thing that this film didn't really do was it didn't keep the original characters in the original story comic book accurate. What I mean by this is Days of Future Past takes on a character known as Kitty. She goes back in time. Well, they replaced Kitty with being the person who sends Wolverine back in time. So rather than the main character going back and trying to go back in time and change time, it was Kitty, it is changed to Wolverine. It's small little things like that, but that's not even relevant to me, because the film, even with using Wolverine as the main guy who goes back in time to try to change decisions and change the future, Days of Future Past, it worked perfectly. Like, everything came out flawless. I really have nothing to... This is a movie... If you're going to see this movie expecting an action film, don't go see this movie. This is not an action flick. If you think it's like X-Men 2, where, there's lots of fighting and carnage and fight scenes, no, this is not that. This X-Men Days of Future Past focuses on the strict story aspect. Yes, there's some action into it in the film, but not a whole lot. Not compared to the previous films that we've seen, like in X-Men 2. And let's not try to remember X-Men 3. One of the worst X-Men films of all time. Ultimately, if you want to see a film that focuses on a unique story and story tells that story exceptionally well, you need to see this film. This film does the comics justice in every possible way. The visuals were in fact stunning. The acting was spot on. I mean, I think, I'm gonna be honest, 20th Century Fox has really got the best characters to play, like, Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman fits the Wolverine character. I can't picture anyone else other than Hugh Jackman. We have Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart as Xavier. He is an amazing... he plays Xavier, like, flawlessly, just like from the comics. Then, of course, you have younger Magneto. I don't remember the actor's name. And then you also have younger Xavier. And those two younger actors, I don't remember the actors' names, but they do the younger versions of those characters so flawlessly. Like, if there's any film that I've seen that takes characters and adapts them so well, it is X-Men. But please take note, I'm not including X-Men 3. That film doesn't exist. Just push that back into your mind, please. It doesn't exist. So without giving any in-depth spoilers, this film is about them changing the course of history by going back in time to change the future. That's what the film is about mutants on the verge of extinction, and the X-Men team, or parts of the X-Men team, band together to stop future in regards to their own extinction. The last scene after the credits made me squeal like a little girl, like I did, because it's taking one of my favorite comic book villains of all time, and we're going to have a new X-Men film in 2016, which I'm very, very excited for, because it's taking one of my favorite villains and it's putting him to the real life cinema. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been my very non-harsh review, non-critical review of Days of Future Past. And, you know, I could rat on some of the costumes, but that's really not a negative thing. You know, I don't really think that is something to diss a movie for, is, you know, their costumes didn't look up to, like, the comic book standard. But I genuinely, I don't have any really thing negative to say about this film in terms of the acting, the visuals, the story. It was done so well, and it's a storytelling film. You know, you don't need to go see the first X-Men movie or the second X-Men movie to enjoy this. This film, X-Men Days of Future Past, gives the two comic books, Uncanny X-Men 141 to 142, the justice it deserves.